Cheap Homesteading, and today I just wanted to talk about homesteading and self-sufficiency and how prepared we really are. I don't think that we are as prepared as we think we are. When you look at all these groups of people, like you have these groups of people of Amish and Mennonite and all those groups around the world, like their biggest asset is their neighbor. When they are sick, they come milk the cows. When something burns down, they come help build them a new building or whatever it may be. So their neighbors are one of their biggest assets. We've kind of got away from that, and we have this homesteading's bad for that. It's like this self-sufficiency thing going that people think you make yourself fully self-sufficient and you can survive anything. And you know what? That's not the case. I really do feel that you need to build a core group of people that stuff starts happening, you call them. You build those relationships, like your neighbors, like neighbor George down the road from me. I got stuck, and I could have probably fought till I got the tractor out. It would have took a long time, but I would have got it out. But sometimes you just got to call your neighbor, and he comes, pulls you out, and you're out. And you build those relationships, and you hope that hopefully someday he will need something to call, and you just build that relationship with your neighbors, because at the end of the day, there's only so much time in the day, and there's only so much you can do, and there's only so much stuff you can store, and it is more important to build relationships with people, because your community is your biggest asset. So I really feel in the next few years, we're going to really see how important having good neighbors, relatives, and friends are really going to be, and building that relationship with God. You can leave everything that you don't have done, didn't get done, or whatever with God, and you don't have to worry about it, because, as I say, this view of self-sufficiency, it in some ways is an illusion, because things run out. So we're not as dependent on the community as it was in the past, but in some weird way we have given it to total strangers, so they don't have an invested interest. So a lot of times it's the business we buy something from, and then that person buys it from someone else that ships it into the country, and then there's a manufacturer, and if we end up putting our hope in going to that store and buying that product and hoping that it's there, when it's not, people get stressed, and that just shows how easily things can get disrupted. People's jobs can be gone, and I really feel in the near future, if this continues the way it's going, there is going to be a very, very large economic downturn. I just can't see how you can have many restaurants shut down, and you can have all these different supply chain issues where people can't even sell product because they don't have product to sell. I just really can see in the future that it's going to be some tough times, and we're not going to be immune to that. But on the flip side, you kind of, as a homesteading, I love to do stuff myself. I like to be prepared. I like to do just a lot of different things. But you can so easily be drawn into the false idea that we are self-sufficient. We are not self-sufficient. Even if we've got tons of food, we've got lots of property somewhere, if we've got a garden that's huge, we've got, you know what, I do recommend people going and growing gardens. I recommend people preparing a little bit, and I definitely recommend them doing those things, but don't put your hope in it, because if for one reason or another we cannot count on our self-sufficiency. My grandparents, their grandparents before them, they did not count on their own self-sufficiency to get them through. They counted on God, number one, which my nation of Canada has kind of forgotten about what got them to where they were. And the US is kind of on the same boat. We have decided that we can kind of go it on our own, and we don't need to do the things that our parents have done and our grandparents have done. Because realistically, my ancestors did what they had to do for me to be here this day, this moment. And a lot of that is not trusting totally on themselves and trusting in God to supply their needs. And when you have a view like that, it gets you in a bit better mental position. Because I can't do everything. And I know I can't do everything, and I know I gotta leave the rest to God. And my grandparents went through the Depression. I always used to joke around that, it took us a little longer to get out of the Depression. I don't know any of that. But one thing I do know is the stories my dad had about barely having any food, malnourished. And in the old farmhouse, when we tore it down in the basement, there was a where they put in the septic pipe out to the weeping bed and the septic tank. It said 1978. And I looked at that and I remember telling my dad, 1978, is that when they put the septic in? And, I go, what'd they do before? And they had an outhouse. They didn't have running water in the house till 1978. And I'm like, oh my word. They did what they just had to do, and they trusted in God, and God supplied. And that's where our hope really needs to be. Leave everything that you don't have done, didn't get done, or whatever with God, and you don't have to worry about it. Because, as I say, this view of self-sufficiency, it in some ways is an illusion, because things run out, we can't get it. So I do recommend getting a little bit prepared for the winter that's coming, because I think this winter is going to be a tough winter. I don't think stores are going to have stuff unless things turn around. I think the price of fuel is going crazy. They're already talking at certain climate groups that they want to basically phase out fuel. So you know what? Diesel, gas is freedom. They can't turn off gas. They can try to take it, but they can't turn it off. So if everyone is dependent on power, you just have to turn a switch off. So I can see in the future our dependence is getting more and more on another person that may not have our best interests in heart. It is really important to make sure that you supply up a little bit for this winter. I really do feel that things are not going to get better probably this winter, so it's kind of good to make sure that we're all prepared. Make sure your generators are up and running, and supply a little bit of food, and just make those relationships with your neighbors and your friends and your relatives that you can kind of pull together if stuff happens, because really we are in a weird time. I don't know which way this can go. It seems to be going the direction of probably a bunch of people losing their jobs for many different reasons. Economic downturn, certain things that are happening that are forcing people to leave their jobs. And then on top of that is businesses not having products to sell, and how long will those businesses be around to supply people with jobs if they can't make money, don't have product to sell. So I feel that we're at a pivotal moment. This could go one way or another, and I think this winter it's really important to prepare a little bit. But the end result is we are not self-sufficient. Even if we think that we are prepared, we have forgot something, and we will run out of something eventually. So Yeah, I just wanted to make this video to tell you guys that it's been super busy around here. I haven't been able to put out videos regularly with working and doing all that kind of stuff and preparing a little bit. It's very hard to keep putting all these videos out. Probably in the next few weeks, I'm going to try to put out a bunch of videos. There's a lot of stuff that I can do, that I can film, so I'm going to post a lot of that. But I just kind of wanted to come on here and tell you guys that build those relationships with your neighbors and most importantly, God. So that's about enough for today. You guys have a good one.